Hi everybody, welcome to the Vlogspot TV. Today we're going to talk about Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey from Making a Murderer. But before we get started, I want to let you know about my channel page layout. As you scroll down, you will see the different topics. And the very last topic is real life stories, where this video will be. And also there is Sweetie Pie's Tim Norman's real life story. Okay, so let's get started. And the title of this article is Here's the Latest Update on Stephen Avery's Making a Murderer appeal. And it came out on May 29th, 2020. And this is from Newsweek. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read the important parts I think you would want to know. Okay, here we go. There's a new Making a Murderer update for advocates of Stephen Avery's alleged innocence, but it doesn't mean too much just yet. The state of Wisconsin responded to Avery's appeal brief by asking the court to uphold the decision to deny Avery a new trial. We all know that Stephen was convicted back in 2005 and that he still maintains his innocence. Also, Catherine Zellner, who is Stephen Avery's lawyer, appealed his case in October 2019, and back in May, the Assistant Attorney General, Lisa Comfer, responded with a 130-page document. The state of Wisconsin's document rallies against the claim that Avery deserves a new evidentiary hearing after Zellner and team asked to submit new evidence for appellate consideration. An appellate is just the appeals process. Zellner's initial argument claimed Avery should have a new trial for a few reasons. The brief said Avery's trial attorneys were ineffective counsel and pointed to a few moments in which they claimed the circuit court abused its discretion in failing to grant Avery an evidentiary hearing. Zellner also counted 6 potential Brady violations on behalf of the circuit court. The state of Wisconsin's response denies the claims in Zellner's brief. Accordingly, the question on appeal is not whether Avery is guilty of KILLING Hallback. It reads, that question was for the jury, which many years ago answered yes, beyond a reasonable doubt. Nor is the question on appeal whether Avery's latest counsel can construct a different trial defense, find new ways to attack the trial evidence, or identify issues that have not been raised previously. Wisconsin's response continues. The only question before this court in this appeal is whether any of Avery's motions entitle him to an evidentiary hearing. The answer to that question is no. So what does this mean for Avery? Zellner and Avery can respond to the state's response by June 11th. It will be up to the state to decide if Avery should be granted a new trial. I'm going to stop right there. Later on in this video, we will talk about Zellner and Avery's June 11th response. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to skip this next paragraph, which talks about Stephen's reaction to the state's brief. And I'll go to the next paragraph, which says the state could allow Avery to present new evidence to a court and potentially be absolved of his guilty verdict. Or they may deny a new trial, leaving him in prison. If the latter happens, Avery can attempt to appeal to a higher court, as did his nephew, Brendan Dassey. And then the next paragraph talks about Brendan was denied a new trial by the United States Supreme Court. Okay, I'm going to skip these last two paragraphs and go to the next article. This next article is from Post Crescent, and it came out on June 25th, 2020. And the title of that is Stephen Avery has endured mental anguish of knowing he is innocent. And I'm not going to read the rest of that. I'll let you guys look at that. Okay, here we go. Stephen Avery's attorney argued in a legal brief filed Thursday, which was June 25th, that Avery's prior attorneys failed to hire necessary experts and investigate and establish other suspects. Kathleen Zellner notes at the outset of the court document a reply to state prosecutors' arguments against Avery's appeal that Avery has spent 5,343 days in prison for what she describes as his second wrongful conviction. He has endured the mental anguish of knowing that he is innocent and his constitutional rights to a fair trial were violated, the brief stated. Zellner asked the appeals court to either allow additional scientific testing and an evidentiary hearing or reverse Avery's conviction and grant him a new trial. And I'm going to skip this next paragraph and go down a little bit. I'm also going to skip the case gain paragraph, and you can come back and read that later. And this paragraph here says that in early August, Sheboygan County judge rejected Avery's request for a new trial. Avery argued his conviction was flawed because state prosecutors were mistaken when they turned over suspected human bones to Halbach's family without allowing his side to have them tested. Now, that's really bad. The defense attorneys couldn't get them tested. And in October, Zellner filed a 150-page document that asked the appeal court to review a variety of issues with the case, including a claim of ineffective representation at trial and insufficient testing of evidence. The state prosecutors asked the court to reject those arguments in a reply filed with the court in late May, instead arguing Avery's claims were speculative, inconsistent, and far-fetched, and that he seems to erroneously believe that he is appealing the jury's determination of guilt. Okay, let's go down. In her own reply filed Thursday, Zellner described the arguments by state prosecutors as a desperate effort to keep Avery in prison. She argued that a September 18, 2017 agreement should allow Avery to amend past claims, perform additional testing, and schedule an evidentiary hearing. And I'm going to skip the state's brief part. Zellner referred to an affidavit from one of Avery's trial attorneys, Dean Strang, that says he and Avery's other trial attorney, Jerry Buting, were ineffective because they failed to hire ballistics, trace, and blood experts. She also claimed that Avery's trial attorneys were ineffective because they failed to investigate and impeach Bobby Dassey, Brendan Dassey's brother. Zellner claims Bobby Dassey committed perjury when he testified that Hallback never left the Avery property and that he was asleep when doing online searches. He has a direct connection to the MURDER by his later admissions, violent porn, and word searches that reflect knowledge of the crime and the victim, the court document says. Zellner argues Avery should be allowed to present new evidence she says shows inconsistencies in the state's theory of the case, specifically that Hallback was shot in the head on Avery's garage floor. She also claims a forensic fire expert was able to determine that nobody was ever burned in Avery's burn pit. Zellner also claims state prosecutors misstated Avery's argument, justifying the ineffectiveness of his trial attorneys. Avery never argued that trial defense counsel were ineffective for failing to present his plan of evidence defense, the brief said. Instead, Avery argues that they were ineffective for failing to hire experts, failing to investigate and impeach Bobby Dassey, failing to establish third-party suspects, and failing in numerous other ways. So Kathleen Zellner is saying a lot here. She's saying a lot about Dean Strang and Jerry Buting. And she must also believe that Bobby Dassey is actually the person. Anything that I didn't read, you can go back and look at it to see what all was said. And that's going to do it for me. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Please like and share the video, post your comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. P.S. I will be uploading a video about the Making a Murderer story where we'll go through the court documents. And I just want to let you know that's coming. It's going to take me probably about